Good afternoon. Welcome to another family engagement conversation. My name is Mara Grujanic and I'm the family engagement coordinator at Stevenson High School. And I'd like to welcome you today to our conversation. Today, we are going to talk about the changing relationship between teens and adults during high school. It's adolescence, they're different. Feels like someone took your wonderful child and maybe just changed them, and it's just about strife and what's going on, and but there is a method to the madness. Your teen may all of a sudden feel like they are volatile and moody and self-centered and only focused on themselves, and they are just looking at you, and there's a lot of back talking and like condescending comments and stuff. And then 2 seconds later, they can seem like they're super mature and affectionate and delightful. And so teenagers are the most wonderful combination of mature adults or seemingly mature adults and crazy toddlers. And our job as the adults in their lives is to provide the kind of place that they can try on all the personalities that they're trying to do, because they're moving from being a child to being an adult. And it's that process. That's what adolescence is about. It's that process, making that transition. And what we need to do as the adults in their lives is to be the constant there. It's there in support of all of those sort of, what am I going to do? So how do we do that? Let's talk about some of the things that are happening to our teens. First of all, their whole self-concept is changing. They may be thinking about, who am I? First of all, who am I as an independent person, making decisions for myself, making my own decisions about what am I going to do, my judgment, do I think? They start developmentally getting more reasoning skills, and their intuitive abilities become better because they get more responsibilities, right? As a teen, they start driving, they're outside of you more, they're navigating the world without you, so they get better intuition. And so then they start to get their own thoughts and their own ideas because they're out there on their own without you. And that's what's supposed to be happening. And just say, that's what's supposed to be happening. And so as they gain a little bit more independence, right? They're not waiting for you to pick them up. They're not waiting for you to drop them off. You don't know all their friends. You may not know all their friends' parents, which is all good. They also start thinking about their future and their adult life. And what do I want to be? What do I want? Who do I want to be as an adult? And then they start thinking about their identity. So who am I? What's my core personality? And that is one of the most important things around being a teen, is to have a sense of who am I outside of this super supportive, wonderful family unit that I have had for my whole life. So they have to get comfortable with a more mature physical body, right? So they used to be a kid. They have to use their own judgment, as we were talking about before, and they start to develop, how am I going to deal with my own problems, which is a really big deal for them. They also have a feeling of self-esteem, like, how do I feel about myself? And if you could imagine, every day they wake up and something new is hitting them, right? Their sense of self-esteem is dependent a lot of times on, what am I going through? Do I feel good about myself? Do I not? Everything's changing about myself. Everything's changing about my body. Everything's changing around my friends, who I thought I had, who I didn't think I had. And so sometimes that can lead to low self-esteem, right? because they're really, really thoughtful. And even though they may be slamming the door on you, they may not want to talk to you, the hair is in the eyes, all that thing, all those things, they are listening and they are watching. They are watching very carefully. How are you reacting to them? Because they're not sure about themselves. And so they notice the differences in the way they act and their peers act. They notice how their actions impact other people. And so what happens is in the beginning, like 14, 12, 13, 14, 15, there's that sense of like, who am I? What am I? I don't know who I am. And as they begin to mature and they begin to feel better about themselves, they get a better sense of self-concept. So they have a better sense of self-esteem, right? And what you can do is be that constant with them and sort of help them along in that sort of idea. But what happens with that is that there's going to be a lot of struggles between you and your team. Because they want to be independent. And I know that those of you who have been with me in some of these conversations, I have this thing that I say is that as a family member, as the adult in the family, you go from being the manager of your teen's life to the mentor in their life. So you go from controlling everything that happens with them to sort of helping them navigate through. Who am I? I've got this new sense of independence. I've got this self-esteem thing that I'm trying to figure out. So they, even though, and I have a couple that are, they say adolescence goes through 24. My oldest is in the last year of adolescence. And I promise you, they go from being just people that you really are trying to tolerate to people that you really like. And that could happen within a day too. And that could happen within an hour. But because you are the most important person in your teen's life, in your child's life, you are it. You are it for them. And so your love, your support, your approval is critical. It's critical to a teen who is trying to figure out what's going on in my life. Where am I? What do I value? Do I still want to be friends with this person? Or do I want to try to be friends with this person? Maybe a friend in their life is making a value decision that they don't like, and that's really challenging them. You are the constant in their life. You are the person that helps them navigate that. So they have all this contact with all these people outside of you. And so what's going to happen is they're going to get all these different influences. So what you need to understand is that you're still the most important person in their lives. You are still the most important person in their lives. But they have to start becoming adults. And they have to start not asking you for permission to think about things, for permission to deal with things. And so that becomes this struggle between who's in control. Are you in control or is your student in control? So what you can do is you can let them know unconditionally that you support them, but that there has to be discussions around some of the decisions that they make. You can still hold your family's values, your core values as a family, as sacred, and talk to your students about, talk to your teens about that. This is what our family holds really sacred to us. This is really important to us because they need to know where, when they're thinking about things, they're going to try on a lot of different things, right? And they're going to have to get in control of their lives. When you are explicit about, hey, this is what our family values, this is who we are, they know, okay, that's what's important to this value and this family. And they may challenge that because they're trying to figure out who they are. And, you know, when they say like, I don't know anything about your world, it's true. It's true. Many adults as middle-aged people go through this same, they say that's that middle-age crisis, who am I? What am I? So there's a lot of people in I like to think I'm middle-aged. I'm probably on the waning end of middle age, but there's a lot of people in our age group who are trying to figure out who they are and am I doing what I always wanted to be doing? And that's what teenagers are going through, right? So there's a lot of anxiety and what can I do? But teens are really going, because you have been their manager, they are going to be worried if they're living up to your expectations all the time. They are going to be worried about whether or not you accept them as who they are all the time. So you can look at your role with your teen and you can think, my teen's role is to become an independent adult. My teen's role is to become independent and an independent functioning adult. And the way you do that is you provide unconditional support to them and open lines of communication. They may not want to talk to you. They may slam the door, but you are always there. And you may say, hey, you don't want to talk to me, it's fine. We're still eating dinner at whatever, 6 o'clock as a family. And that is the expectation in this family. You are still the adult. You can set expectations. And your teen may not like them, but that's your family value. You are still welcome to do that. But you need to remember that you can no longer control every aspect of your teen's life. And you need to keep those lines of communication open and be a positive example for your teen, because they are going to spend a lot of time with their peers. It changes, right? Their peers become, because they're trying on new stuff. They're trying on, who am I? Who am I? What do I want to be? Who do I want to be like? So they're looking at their peers because they don't necessarily, they're trying to sort of exert independence from you. So who do they look at? They look at the kids around them. And that means that sometimes they may be friends with friends that you're like, whoa, that's not good. But you just maintain what your value is, right? In your family. And your teen will try that person on for size and see if they want to be friends with them, and maybe they won't. They spend less time with us. For girls, friendships are like it. When our kids are little, they're friends with the kids that they do things with, right? When they become teens, they become more friends with people that have similar attitudes, values, goals, educational interests, right? So it's not like, hey, I'm on the same team or club or church group with you, we're friends. Now we have the same attitudes about things, we have the same ideas about things, because, I mean, in a place like Stevenson, there's 158 clubs. You can't just be friends with the people that you're in a club with, right? I mean, you could, but you'd have a lot of very varied friends. But you have this, like, your clubs are based on your interests. So then maybe they're friends with kids that they have interests in. Girls, super intimate relationships. Gigantic conversations around, who am I? What do I do? Boys, not so much. Boys hang out. Girls, emotionally invested. Boys hang out and talk, but they're, they do things together a little bit more. You, as we have said, you provide the unconditional supportive environment for your teens. You are there knowing that one day they're going to come in and be like, hey, how are you? What's going on? And the other day, the backpack is going to come flying through the door before their foot. You know that peer influences are huge for a teen. And that can make for some stressful times for you and your teen as well. Your family provides an emotionally secure space where your teen knows they are loved and accepted unconditionally, because what that does is that builds confidence, that builds self-esteem. They understand boundaries. They understand what is consistent in my life and what is predictable in my life. And that is what you provide: consistent values, predictability, unconditional love, and support. so that if you see your teen with risky behavior, you can say, hey, whoa, that doesn't align with the values of our household. That is not our values. Because what happens then is they know what is socially acceptable, right? So you are the first relationship that your teen is managing, right? Your teen is trying to figure out. And when you are consistent and you are thoughtful, you are providing a really, really good opportunity for them to see, what does it mean to be unconditionally loved? What does it mean to have someone that allows you to figure out who you are and still come home and build the trust that they need to be with you, to come back to you and say, hey, I'm kind of going through some stuff, right? So now you are going from manager, right, to mentor. Your role is of care and emotional support and building relationships with them. Listen to them. Listen with your ears. I just talked to a parent the other day from Stevenson. I don't know if you're on right now live or if you're listening later, but he said the most difficult thing is to be present in the conversation with your ears and not your mouth. And I'm going to take it from him. Didn't ask him, but I'm going to take it from him because I thought that was really great. How can you do that? How can you build in time with your team? Make family outings, cook family dinner, have one-on-one time. If you have a dog or whatever, an animal, whatever, take a walk, do things together. Celebrate your child's accomplishments. Celebrate your teen's accomplishments. If they do something great, if you don't know what they've done great, if they studied really well for a test, or they were in an activity that they feel really, super positive about, celebrate it. Yay, oh my gosh, I'm so happy you did that. This is great. Do have family traditions. We are coming into the holidays. There's so many different cultural holidays over the next 60, 90 days that hey, we are all going to be together and have time with one another. Spend time with your teen, talk to your teen, set aside time, have movie night together. Make sure that your teen knows that there's family responsibilities and there's rules, so that you have baked in time with them. You're consistent with your values, consistent with listening and spending time with your ears more than your mouth. And you hear from your teen and are communicating enough with your teen to know what are the changes and sort of the ideas that they are trying on for size as they're learning how to be a young adult. I hope that this was helpful for all of you. I really acknowledge and respect and thank you for joining me live today. I am going to, I see that there is someone who has asked a question. You know what? I know boys don't ever want to talk back. Be there. Just be there and ask open-ended questions. You know what? One of the interesting things around boys is if you can create the family dynamic that your family eats together and everyone sort of talks about their days in an open-ended way. So tonight is let's talk about your future night. And if you haven't done this, I'm going to go to the page. It's an initiative of Stevenson High School. Let's talk about your future night. Oh, that's not what I want. And the place you can find information on Let's Talk About Your Future Night is through the academics tab. I'm going to make this bigger so I can see the academics tab. Under academics, if you see under course selection here, tonight is, as I said, Let's Talk About Your Future Night. And if you say, let's talk about your future, and you see these discussion flashcards, you don't have to do this tonight, but you can also say to them like, oh yeah, we're gonna talk about your future night, or what classes are you taking next semester. A boy not wanting to talk to you is because they're trying to figure out who they are outside of you, right? And that's developmentally appropriate for them. But that doesn't mean that you can't continue to ask open-ended questions and have a conversation with your teen about the fact that it is appropriate and expected. It's an expectation in your family that your teen respond to you, at least in those open-ended discussions. You don't have to, your teen doesn't have to be like, come home and sit down around the table and tell you every minute of their day. But what you have to think about is it's discussion is there's building blocks for those. And maybe let's talk about your future night is one way. You don't have to just do it tonight. You can do it at any time. You can say, hey, I know you're going to start, registering for your classes next time. I would like to spend time with you talking about what classes you want to take. And that's a door opener, because you're going to have to sign off on the classes. Even if they don't want to do this with you now, you can say to them, hey, I know you're registering for classes, and before I sign off on it, because you have to sign off on it, I want to see what classes you're taking. And that's an opener for you to say, tell me about the classes you're taking. Tell me about what you like about these. Tell me about how you're involved in school. And really be comfortable with the fact that there may be silence around that initially, and wait for them to talk, because they're going to feel, right? We're adults. We fill the space verbally. Sit back and listen. Just listen. Just wait. I'm waiting for you to answer. Tell me. And it's good. You're going to have to build that over the course of a little bit of time, but it'll come. I hope that answered your question. Yeah, okay, they're walking with the headphones, take the headphones off. Nope, take your headphones off. I want to spend time with you. I want to get to know what's going on in your life. You can say, hey, I want to spend time. It's not to say don't ever put your headphones on. I got a headphone kit at home too. And when he talks to me, he just takes one headphone off. It makes me nuts. But I will say, I want to spend time with you. I want to talk to you. I want to know what's going on in your life. And I want those things off of your head. And I need to have a conversation with you. And even if it's for 5 minutes, start with 5 minutes. I promise you, start with 1 or 2 questions. And over time, it will come. The best way to do it is to have family dinner together and have conversations while they ask them a question while they're having dinner. Tell them, this is our family value. We're sitting down, we're eating together. This is so you have to structure that time, and it may only be once a week, but you can start with once a week family dinner for 20 minutes. I hope that'll help you. Yeah, I hope it helps you. I hope it helps. I have to tell you this. If you are having problems, you see your teen is not talking to you and getting into risky behavior, reach out to the counselor. That's what they're there for. It's best to catch things right away. And maybe it's something that you think is a big deal, but in the life or the span of a teenager, it's not. But your counselor is, because I like to say this, you have raised, 1, 2, 4, 5 teenagers. The counselors have seen hundreds every year. So they have like a really good perspective of like the norms of teenagers. I only have the perspective of 2, right? Because I'm an educator, but in my own home, I have a perspective of 2. So if you ever have a question, reach out to your counselor. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about social responsibility. At noon again. I thank you very much. My name is Mara Grusjanik. If you ever have a question about anything, or you want to reach out, or you have feedback for me, I'll put a link in the chat, but also please do not hesitate to contact me. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. I hope everybody has a great afternoon. Take care. Bye, everyone.